Kelly? I haven't seen Martell yet.
He hasn't come in yet.
He's kind of running the show on this one, so.
Here comes Brad Clayton. That's interesting.
Yeah, he wanted to be involved a little bit.
I'm glad. Okay.
Morning, Brad.
Good morning, Larry.
Good morning. How are you?
Wide awake.
Oh, good. As am I. Good morning, Nate. Good to see you.
Good morning to you.
How is everybody? Kind of a somber bunch in here this morning.
We're just barely dragging out of bed, Brad. How about you?
Oh, I've just been getting after it for a while.
As have I. Been busy.
This is the Northern Utah one, right?
That's correct.
Okay. I didn't want to get on the wrong one, you know.
Oh, you could get on the wrong one. You know that.
I've taken many wrong turns.
Note to everybody, this meeting is being recorded.
So we're going to be quiet now.
Yeah.
Well, my chapter president sent us a message, said, get on this, and it looks like I might be the only one, so.
I know Martell knows about it because he sent me information about what we're going to talk about with the link to the training to everybody. So,
Well, Deloy knew about it too, so we'll see what happens.
It's 3 minutes after.
Oh, Kelly's on here. Kelly Sanders, he's our president-elect. He's got her covered.
well,
Here's Martell now.
oh, I was just going to try and get his number to call him.
Yeah, he's just coming on.
Okay. Good morning, Martell. Good morning, Martell. Yeah. Yeah. Good morning, Martell.
Good morning.
There he is.
I'm figuring out how to play this game.
Oh. You ready to get this thing rolling?
When everybody's here,
Open all those.
Well, we've got, what, 15 or so right now?
Congratulations on becoming a sustaining member, and it's two-sided, so we can't even use them.
Well, you know what? I don't know. I tried to bring one.
Sorry.
Good morning,
I
Linda.
made it stop. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, we're about 5 minutes past. Why don't we start, Martell?
okay. What do you want me to start with?
How about an opening prayer?
Opening prayer. I would be glad to do that. Our Father in heaven, we're indeed thankful for many things that thou hast blessed us with and the opportunities to go forth this day. We're thankful for the technology that we have to be able to communicate over long distances and to review the needs and training for the Sons of Utah Pioneers this morning. We're indeed thankful for guidance and leadership that we have in our organization. We ask thy blessings to be upon them, that they may be inspired to be able to invite us to be motivated and opportunities to be able to serve and make our organization grow. We're indeed thankful for the freedoms that we enjoy and being able to live in this country. We ask thy blessings to be upon the leaders of this country, that they may be able to lead, guide, direct in a pleasing manner unto thee, and according to thy will. Now as we go forth, and we ask thy blessings to be with us, and these things we say and ask in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
And
Do you have a flag there, John?
I do have.
Would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance then?
All stand, face the flag. And repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
States of
of
America.
America and to the
And to the
republic for
republic
which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
justice for all.
Thank you.
Well, Martell, this is your guys and Bob's meeting, so take it away and let's talk about what you guys want to talk about for the first while. And we'll sit back and listen.
There was a couple of things that I forwarded to you that came up from some of our chapters here. I'd like to review the requirements for membership in SUP. Now, the information that came out here a couple of days ago did have answers to that comment. And apparently our leadership in some of the chapters are not paying attention to this information that's being handed out. So that was one thing that I think got taken care of. And then a second item was, these are all for the national to take and address. National elections could be put on the website. And this is an answer probably John could work on or give us an answer. If we have a ballot that's on the website, can our membership cast their ballot rather than having to send out a hard copy and then have to mail it back in?
There's a couple of reasons why we send out a ballot to all membership. One is that it's at this point, it's impossible for us to control email ballot. Secondly, is that we use it for tracking and finding members that have moved that don't notify us. So there's two reasons for that. So at this present time, not yet, but maybe in the future.
John, that makes sense on the first part of that. There can be a lot of people that can get in there and cast the vote that's not even a member. So yes, probably need to just continue in that direction. Number 3 I had is can a video link, let me say it from the beginning. Could National have a video link of the headquarters building for members to see what the national headquarters has to offer, such as a video tour? And that would be kind of fun to look at.
That's a great idea. I think we could probably do that.
Okay.
You know, the one thing that's going to be beneficial and help a little bit with that, Martel, is the next couple issues of the Pioneer magazine. They're going to deal almost exclusively on the building and some of the resources and blessings and gifts that are there. So.
Yeah, that's true. I did visit with our editor on that, and Bill, and he did say that they were going to do that. And I think that's an excellent idea. I think he was planning to look at an issue in 23.
So I'll bet I know a video guy that would be thrilled to go up there and do that for us.
Yeah, we had members from our chapter who had been in the national office for the first time, and they were just in awe of how neat that building is.
I think we need to wait until we get the bear flag though to do that.
That's no problem. It's when everything is set and ready. Good idea. Number 4, ask chapters to provide a Zoom link of their special membership meetings to share with other chapters, either at the same time of their presentation or can be pulled from an archive. And I thought that was an interesting comment. Many times we have chapters who have a very special meeting and they could Zoom it so the other chapters around the area could watch it. Now, I noticed that the other day I got an email about a chapter that was having a Zoom meeting coming up. I think it's this last Thursday, I think it was. And I thought that was neat that chapter wanted to share their presentation. Something that could be worked on. And then item number 5 is in our encampment business meeting on Saturday morning. There was a lot of information that we talked about and that sort of thing. Is there a possibility that meeting could be put in a Zoom format so that those who couldn't attend our encampment could also be in attendance at the encampment leadership meeting?
That could very possibly be. We'd have to set it up special and record it, but it can be done.
Okay. Yeah, these are all comments from people who attended the encampment for the first time and just saw that, there's little things like this that just make it a little bit better. One other thing is the other day I was looking at the website, and the website has hidden somewhere in there the area vice presidents. I've never found it, but somewhere on our website, the area vice presidents are listed there. Maybe we need to make it a little bit more easier to find the area vice presidents.
We'll take that under advisement, Martel.
Yeah. And those are all the things that I have here. The material that I mentioned that came out a couple of days ago, I've printed off copies of this. I think that all this material here is great. National has always provided this in our leadership meetings. There are a couple of new things in there that are even better. I don't have any more to share at this time. Maybe Bob Wall has some thoughts.
Bob?
Do you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, there's several items that I think are really important for the future of our SUP. The first one is we're all getting to be old guys, and I don't plan on being in the SUP for another 20 years. And what I would like to do, though, is in the next 20 years, is leave something behind for those who follow To me, this is the tradition of the Sons of the Utah Pioneers. And what I'd like to leave behind would be a financial donation, but I'd like that donation to not be in a operating budget. I'd like it to be in an endowment fund. And the difference between an endowment fund and an operating budget is the operating budget is for annual expenses. We do put out an excellent, well-documented annual budget. What I'd like to see is a endowment fund which cannot be tapped until it reaches a certain agreed upon amount. And that amount would then, the interest from that account would then be available for the following year's operating budget. What I'm describing is something that most institutions already have. BYU has this, every university has this. I think we could do it. I think we could set up an irrevocable trust that would be a place where many of our older members would feel comfortable contributing money to, knowing that it would still be there, that money would continue to grow well into the future. A good example of this is Benjamin Franklin. He understood the value of this, and as a result, set up a Franklin Fund and said, I'd like this to last for 100 years. He defined who he wanted that fund to be, how he wanted that fund to be used. Over the next 100 years, that fund became huge, and many people tried to tap into it. Benjamin Franklin had written it well enough that it could not be tapped into. It was used only for the purposes that he had directed 100 years earlier when he set up the account. I think it'd be wonderful if we were as smart as Benjamin Franklin.
Bob, we do have a life endowment fund with our investments for that very purpose, which the life members are donating to as they come into our association. And then we have used in emergencies, the profits off that fund for regular expenses. But it is an endowment fund, which we do have, and we have that set up that way.
You know, this might be a good time for me to talk about what I wanted to talk about after Bob's segue into this. I was watching the other night, The Fiddler on the Roof, and remember Tavier going into the Fiddler on the Roof. His first scenes was talking about traditions and things that were going on, and he went from one individual to the next individual and said, why do we do that? And his response, I don't know, it's our tradition. Too many times we let traditions and doing the way we did it cloud our vision of what we want to see in the future. And just as Javier said that his society and his family and his life was like a fiddler on the roof that was very fragile and trying to balance on the peak of a roof, we as an organization are very fragile and trying to peak on a roof where we've got multiple generations and multiple types of people that we're trying to address. With that in mind, we as the executive board have looked at the possibility and the need of looking at us down the road for a larger vision of what we think the Sons of the Utah Pioneers ought to be in the next, say, 5 years. This is not a static idea, but it's a dynamic approach that we want to take. And we have earmarked 3 or 4 areas that we think that we need to really deal on to help us so that we're more stable on that peak of the roof like the Fiddler. One of the major ones is membership. We have set a goal as a executive board to increase our membership up to 2,500 within the next 5 years. You say, well, that's only 500 members, but you have to really realize that we're going to have a lot of attrition and a lot of people that are going to be going. So that's actually probably about 200 members a year that we have to recruit and become part of our organization. Another goal that we have set is for us to be financially viable. This goes back to what Bob was saying about what we can do to become more financially viable. John's done an excellent job, and we do have endowment funds, but we want to see if we can't become more fiscally responsible in those areas. The third one, which Nate brought up, and is to become more visible in the public eye. And by that, Nate, tell them about what you've done with the Pioneer Parade and how much that how invisible we are up there. Maybe they'll understand.
Yeah, I had mentioned in our meeting before that we have tried to be visible in the community, but by doing a number of things that I'll talk about a little bit later here. But one of the things that impressed me is that we, over the last several years, have had an entry in our local Pioneer Days parade. And a couple of years ago, we just took a wagon, put some decorations on it, put some hay bales in the middle, and had a half a dozen or so of our membership ride in that wagon. And we had signs on the side and everything. And as we went down the main street of Ogden, people were standing and giving us a standing ovation and shouting cheers and clapping out of their minds. And I was just absolutely amazed at the reception that we received in the community. But basically, that's the only thing that we have done to be visible in the community. We have tried other things. As part of our awards program in the national, we are required to submit articles to our local newspaper. And every time we've submitted an article over the last 3 or 4 years, it has just gone right into the wastebasket, I believe, because none of those articles ever get published. There's no public visibility through our local media. So one of our goals that we've identified as an executive committee is to come up with some plans, some tools that we can use in all our chapters to help improve our visibility in the community. And not just visibility in the sense of being a bunch of old guys who get together once a month to have lunch, but doing the projects in the community, partnering with other organizations in the community on some of their projects. We even talked a little bit about sponsoring in the Ogden area, being a co-sponsor of some of the events associated with our Pioneer Days celebration, rather than just riding in the parade. We have great opportunities there with, we host the Miss Rodeo Utah pageant as part of our celebration. And there's great opportunities there to partner with them on some of their activities and get the publicity that we can get out into the community, and a number of other things that we've discussed locally. But we really do want to come up with some plans and strategies that all of our chapters can use in their communities. Every community is a little bit different, but some general things could be identified, I believe would be of help to our chapters in helping them to become more visible in the community and have a greater amount of identity. Anything else, John?
That's good. Thanks, Nate. And the other thing we want to do is be on the cutting edge of supporting the local chapters and what we can do to support those. And be more supportive to your organizations and your areas. So this is some of the areas we as the national are heading towards, or trying to look towards. And we need your input from your local chapters through your AVPs to make these more viable. And we will come up with a 1 year ideas and goals for 1 year and so forth. What do you think about that, Martel?
You're on mute, Martel.
Martel.
I think that's a good direction to go in. There's always improvements that we can make, like in the allergy that you gave. Tradition is tradition, but you know what? We need to improve upon our tradition. And anything that we can do to make things much more viable for our organization, very beneficial.
What do we need on the chapter levels from AVPs, and what do we need to train these presidents in to help them? Bob?
We had a good experience here recently. The Snow Horse chapter met to tour a historic cabin in Kaysville. Before that meeting took place, one of the interested, someone who had worked hard to restore that cabin, advertised our meeting on Facebook. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but I know about Facebook, but I'm not a regular user of Facebook. But there are many people who are. And as we've mentioned earlier, newspapers are kind of a dying, not a lot's happening in newspapers. A huge amount of information is transmitted by these computer programs like Facebook. I think we need to become more computer literate and try and involve those methods in getting people to come to our meetings.
Val, what do you think about that? Val's on mute.
He's trying to get unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I really think that somehow we've got to reach out to the community. And I loved what was said a few minutes ago about the parade in Ogden and so on, so forth. I wish that that was a greater part of what we are expected and supposed to do as chapters and so forth, that we've got to reach out. Now, I've told you before about our Pioneer Day activity in Brigham City, and we've had like 800 people come locally. I wish that some of our leadership, our national leadership, would come and see what's happening. But more important, we need to all be thinking very strongly about reaching out to the community, to other people, to it isn't enough for just us to think about our pioneer ancestors. We need to help the community in as many ways as we can. Thank you.
How are you as presidents going to do that? Martel, I'm going to start with you and work with your presidents. How are they going to do that, and how are we going to lead them?
Reaching out in the community is a positive direction to go in. I'm going to turn some time over to Doug Ladle. He's kind of our Upper Snake Valley communications person. Talk about some of the different things he's done. One of them is Pioneer Fireside We talk about treks, meetings. Doug, could you just share some of your thoughts about the improvements we've made in the chapter over the last couple of years?
Yeah, thanks, Martel. We have a 24th of July Pioneer Fireside every year. We've had them for the last 10 years. We decided about 5 years ago to start highlighting certain sections of our community and, in a way, thanking them as well as recognizing them. So the first of this series was to recognize and honor, we called it our Pioneer and Pioneering. I'm trying to think of what the first group was that we honored in that. Educators, yeah. And so we had a fireside that featured some of the prominent educators. We recognized them. We had a great turnout because people love to say thank you to our teachers, professors at the local university also. So that began the series. Then the next year we did our Pioneer and Pioneering Merchants. And the next year, our Pioneer and Pioneering Ranchers and Farmers. Then our Pioneer and Pioneering Care Providers. And just recently we did our 24th of July fireside on our Pioneer and Pioneering First Responders. And as part of that fireside, we would actually recognize heritage members of those groups, those who had served for 25 years in their profession and locally based. And we can give them a certificate of appreciation and recognition as part of that fireside. We'd have like 50 different individuals bringing their families to receive their recognition awards. So we had fireside speakers that were from that section and then gave those awards out. So that was a big thing, is everybody loves to see people honor each other. And when we began to honor those segments of our community, we were noted. We had articles in the paper every year about those firesides, and we got a lot of traction with a good report and good feelings from our community because we honored those segments of our community. On top of that, we have been able to have successful articles in the newspaper when we do our merit carry-on awards to our high school seniors, 4 seniors from 4 different high schools who've qualified for those merit awards. We get that in the newspaper. We've also had articles in there. We recently had Scott Bradley come up from Logan to give a presentation on the church's foundation in 1830 and on the Constitution's foundation in 1897. And so we had another great series of firesides and got the public interest because we had it in the newspaper. Let's see, what else?
Membership growth are pretty good every time we had one of those firesides. Usually 3, 4, 5 people joined our organization.
And we'd have attendance of around, up from 250 up to 325 and fill up an entire large stake center chapel and a few overflow into the cultural hall with those firesides. We'd have honored guests. The mayor would often come, the university president would come, members of the county commissioner and city council would come. So we got a lot of good report from those kind of firesides. And that's a doer for every community, to recognize those segments of their community and have speakers speaking about their history in that area. So that was that's been a great boost for our program too.
Alan, what have you done in Bountiful?
See if I can get unmuted here. Well, I agree with everything I've heard here about community involvement. We in Bountiful got involved in a project, and we've struggled almost for survival here during COVID. But once we got started on this project, it seems to have increased our membership and interest and the excitement in the community. But we've taken on what we call the Kimball Mill project, which is the Heber C. Kimball Mill in Bountiful, which was built in 1853. Periodically, we've had cleanup projects down there, and we pulled one of those off again this summer. But we've developed a long-range plan for the place, and we're trying to work towards that by building our networks with the community. And we've involved the city council, and the county, because the Kimball Mill site used to belong to the Sons of Utah Pioneers, but following the floods of 1983, it went to the county. So we're having to kind of resurrect a way for people to park and come and see it. We're trying to, it's been suggested that next 24th of July that we work with the Days of 47 to conduct tours over there. So we're trying to expand that project into something that it sounds just like what they were talking about up at Ogden.
What are some of the other chapters doing, Bob?
I think I was really excited when I heard Doug talk about inviting groups to be honored. We've done that, but we've done it in-house. We've only honored dedicated past members of our chapters. We have not reached beyond the community. And I think Doug's idea of, I would be really excited if we had 250 people come to a fireside to honor some of our community leaders. Sons of Utah Pioneers has a huge prestige in the community, but we're almost invisible, largely because of our age. I think if we begin to honor people who are not of our generation, I think that we'll bring in people who are younger, and I think it would be a win-win for everybody. Doug Ladle's suggestion, or his example, to me is a wonderful, wonderful thing to do.
What's the Morgan chapter doing?
Well, right now we're struggling, like probably all of you are struggling. We've gone from about 50 to 55 people attending our luncheon meetings down to about 30 people. And that's a big cut for us, which hits us financially. And we're just kind of trying to figure out now how we're going to exist through the next few years. We do the scholarship program for the high school. We also do an essay program for the high school. We have regular treks, and I think I like the idea of including more people in the community. Our newspaper has been struggling as well. We used to get articles in the paper for 3 or 4 pages if we needed it. Now we're down to 800 words when they have time to put us in. It's also, I think, it's been fluctuating between a hard copy paper and a online paper. And so we're trying to work with that too. But I like the ideas of Facebook pages. I like everything that you've been talking about so far. I think that a lot of these are something as a smaller chapter that we could do.
Okay. Martel, do you have anything else?
During this past summer, our chapter had a trek, and we planned to rent a highway bus and fill it to 50 passengers and do a trek up and down the Snake River Valley, Pocatello to Blackfoot and Idaho Falls. We invited all our members to participate. The community was open to that. And we pretty well got that taken care of. But toward the end of the time of the trek, we had about 30 people that signed up for that trek. We canceled the highway bus and rented minivans, put everybody in it. We went to Pocatello to a majority of the locations there. And I'm going to fall back on Doug to fill us in on that trek because I was not able to attend that. Or maybe even Doug Conway as president. If you'll fill us in on that trek, that'd be great.
Yeah,
went down to the Fort Hall Museum, to the replica, and then to the museum, and spent an hour and a half there. Then we had lunch there in a park near there, and then we went to a museum sponsored by the Kirkham family, Kirkham Auto Parts. They had a number of vintage cars in a building we were able to look at and enjoy. And then we went down to the Spudnik manufacturing facility where they manufacture equipment used for, in the potato industry, which is very interesting. And we were able to walk around their plant and have a tour. And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think it was very successful. I think everybody that attended enjoyed themselves. Yeah.
The advantage of having a trek for each of the chapter members to go on gives you an opportunity to look at different locations in our community and see what's there. There are a lot of museums in each of the communities that we all live in that we never go to, and sponsoring a trek to do that would work out very well. Doug, you had a comment.
I might add that, the trek we went on, it was basically we had kind of set it up something similar to that when we had our national encampment. And so we had many of our members of our chapter that weren't able to go on it. So we were able to just use some of those same ideas that we had used for the, the national encampment. So.
Larry, don't swallow the pen. You worked a little bit with the online. Don't we have a way of using the online for advertising or for things for the chapters?
Let me piggyback for a minute. This is Doug Ladle. One thing that might be a way for us to get into the Facebook and the social media wave is every university has a lot of students who are trying to get internships and experience in promoting their career. And it could be that we could go to the communications department and just ask if there's some students who'd like to have this on their resume, that they've helped us build web pages and also maintain those social media sites for a semester, and teach us how to do that ourselves, but or else maybe just continue that as a real rotating internship that everybody can, that each student can take over every semester. So that's one idea, is using interns to help us with the social media. The second thing is if you get a newspaper contact in your local area, it's really great to let them be your champions and to assist with helping getting articles in the newspaper. We have one that we've worked through, and we're now close friends with her. She's a journalist or a writer for the paper, and so she's very glad to get always our articles in the paper. So getting a contact that you build a friendship with would be a good way to increase your newspaper articles. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
John, can I say something?
Sure.
John Elbert. National has a Facebook page. I don't know how many of you have ever looked at it or not. We keep our activities notified on that Facebook page. A number of chapters do use Facebook. Pocatello chapter is one of those that uses it exclusively for notifying their membership of schedules and activities and whatever. So we have the ability to help chapters develop Facebook and social media if they desire to do so.
Now, Larry, on our online thing with the Derek Crowley, isn't there an opportunity to use that too?
There was, but it's I understand that he's pulled that down because of no use of it. So.
Oh.
Yeah, that's exactly right, John. So Derek has backed away from that. He's backing away from a number of those kinds of things too. because of some of the consolidation we're hoping to have there.
Okay, that's, see, we all learned something today. I'm continually learning. What about our calendar, Larry? Can you talk a little bit about that and what we've got going on the calendars and where we can get these other chapters involved with our nationals?
Are we ready for our section now? Or are we moving to
I'm
ours?
kind of intermixing it with everything, so as we're going through, so.
Okay, do we want to do the finance report before we do that?
Yeah, let's do this because that's where we're kind of talking and then we can go there.
Okay, well, in regards to the calendar, and there are a number of things that I would like to make you aware of. First and foremost, particularly for the chapter leadership, is we need to underline that when we have the national calendar come out, there will be some items specifically that are put on by national specifically. And we have found from time to time that chapters are scheduling over those national events. And we would counsel and hopefully have a strong desire that you be really careful when you receive the national calendar, that those items become first and foremost on your calendars as well, so that all of the membership sees those and has the opportunity to participate in those which apply to them. Just a brief review for your understanding, and we will be getting you out a 2023 calendar here shortly. The things that are remaining still for this year that we have coming up is we still have, well, let me cover it this way. Just recognize that those of you that want to be aware of it, we have a number of meetings that are held every month on a national basis. And let me just review quickly what those are. First of all, on the first Wednesday of each month, of course, we're having our executive first and third Wednesdays of each month. We're having our National Executive Committee meeting. And if there's information that you want to communicate to the National Executive Committee or Council, if you could get it to us either through Pat in the office or through your AVP, we'll make sure we can get those items on the agenda if there's specific things for your particular chapters that you're of interest, would like to have discussed and have information returned to you on. So that's the first and third Wednesdays of each month. In addition, we have a board meeting on the third Wednesday as well for board members. And so if you want information communicated to the board and through the board, please feel free to provide that to us as well through your AVPs so that it can be discussed and handled appropriately. I just want to walk briefly through some highlights of the calendar, both 2022 and 23, because they apply to all of us. So recognize that starting in February, we always have a chapter president's council, and that's a meeting that has established specifically for chapter presidents and those that are invited in addition to them, where we focus our training on a national basis specifically to the chapter leadership and helping you to more effectively run the chapters and organize the chapters in a way that we have found to be successful. Usually chapter leadership is just taken the reins as new presidents and so on. And so we'll still be doing the same thing the latter part of February of this coming year, where we'll have chapter presidents council. In April, we always have on, in fact, this coming year, and if you want to mark that on your calendar, we'll be passing out a calendar to you shortly by email, but on the 15th of April will be our cleanup day at the national headquarters. We've had some great success there. This is a very useful thing for us, and we would love to see more and more of the chapters providing help and support there. That helps us to reduce costs as far as the national facility is concerned. We do some tremendous cleanup at that time and have a lot of different projects that can be done, and we can use every single person that wants to come and contribute to be a strength to ensuring that we have just a class national headquarters for people to see as they come to visit us. So that will be in April and on April 15th. We set it that way because that's the week before we have our national symposium, which will be on April 22nd. And we hope that all of you are putting on your calendars that particular date, April 22nd, so that you can be in attendance at that meeting. Every year we put on a superb presentation, and we've got some great things being lined up right now for our national symposium on that particular Saturday. Of course, it includes an afternoon of presenters, typically 4 different presenters that are well known and established in the particular theme that has been established for it. And then we have a keynote speaker and dinner in the evening. So be sure and make sure that that's on your calendars, and all of the membership have the opportunity to be aware that that's there. We would like to see that continue to grow and prosper and develop. In June, of course, each year is when we begin our president-elect candidate campaigning. We have by that point in time, we've identified who the candidates are who will be running to become president-elect. And so just recognize in June that we'll have that occur. July, of course, they'll continue their campaigning through the month of June and July. And some other keynote items that ought to be on your calendars for July is on July 15th is our Super Duper Day. We had a fantastic Super Duper Day this last year. We had the piano guys there, and they did just a marvelous job of a devotional, a very spiritual devotional that included music as well. And then an opportunity for families to just really enjoy at a very discounted rate. This is the place, park and facility there, which I hope all of you take the opportunity to do. But we want that to be spread to every single member. And of course, you can do that through the chapters, and we hope that you'll consider doing so. That'll be on July 15th. This will come out on the calendar as well. The Days of 47 is going to be held on the 22nd of July this year, not the 24th. The 24th is on Monday, but they want to do it on the Saturday. So the parade and the sunrise service, all of those will be on the Saturday, the 22nd. That also includes the opportunity for those who want to pull hand carts in the National Days of 47 parade. That is just a fun experience for people who want to do it, and whoever comes has the opportunity to be involved in pulling hand carts. So make sure that that's available on your chapter calendars as well. In August is when we have the election process, and of course we take into account the comment that was made regarding elections, possibility of doing things online, and that we'll certainly discuss that and see if that is feasible or not. Once again, it's a matter of technology and having that in place appropriately. But be aware that during the month of August is when the election takes place, so that we have everything in place for the upcoming national meeting, national encampment, which will be held in St. George. Okay, so in September, just skipping forward, September, the national encampment will be, I believe, on September 7th through 9th. As I mentioned, it's going to be in St. George. It's going to be a wonderful experience. And it's something that I don't think any of you want to miss. We have heard that there's a strong possibility, I say that because it can always change, that Elder Holland will be the keynote speaker at that event. Of course, that's his place of his childhood place. His birth and high school career was down in that area, so he has a great love for St. George and gets down there as often as he can. I'm sure we'll have some kind of trek. We haven't got that identified yet, but typically we'll get that on the calendar to you as soon as we can. And then, of course, October is the meeting when we're doing this chapter training, the leadership training under the direction of the AVPs. And this is the first one of 3 which we will be having. The same will happen next October as well. And then last of all, in December, this coming December, for example, we have a Christmas dinner and board meeting at 6 p.m., which we want all of you to be aware of as well. And that's pretty much it as far as the calendar is concerned. Any questions or comments any of you may have regarding the calendar? Did I miss
Each one,
John, that I should have covered?
nothing, but the other thing I wanted to put in there is you can use each one of these things as events for your chapters and publicity events too. And that's why I wanted you to do that, so that they could see that we have stuff lined up that they can use and use for publicity also at that time. So thank you, Larry.
Okay, you're welcome, John.
Anything else, Bob or Martell?
I don't have anything more to share. I think a lot of information has been given out. I just think we need to, membership wise, invite people in our community. In our board meeting at the encampment, I was impressed by the comment that our organization works very well for those who are 50 and over, because we have time. Our family members are usually out of the home by this time, and we have time to spend to support the SUP in our own local communities and participate in the different programs that each chapter has. And we've seen a great benefit from asking those who are 50 or thereabouts to join. And our membership growth has stayed fairly constant, around 50 members over the last 10 years. Just have to keep that in mind. I appreciate the participation of those who have zoomed in on our program today. I think that everyone has learned just a little bit.
I'm going to turn the time over to John Elgren. He's going to do the financials, and then Nate's going to talk about what I think is an important thing for us to use as markers for us as a chapters. John?
Thank you, John. There's a couple of things I'd like to talk to you about finances. First of all is that we're in the next couple of month and a half, we're going to be starting to invoice the national dues, those that are on a year basis. We've requested each of your chapter presidents if they would like us at the same time to invoice your chapter dues. There's an advantage to that, to the chapters, in that we invoice your entire chapter, including the life members, which normally you don't get directly working with. And it's been quite profitable to the chapter. So would you have your chapter presidents or yourself please respond to Pat here at the office and let us know if you'd like us to invoice your chapter dues at the same time. We do need that in writing for permission to do so. The Pioneer magazine is quite valuable to this association. It is our actually keynote communication device. We have run into, because of the inflation, a problem with the magazine, and we are having to increase the subscription price for the magazine. In the past, it's been $25 for 1 year, $45 for 2 years. We're going to be increasing it from 25 to 30 for 1 year and 45 to 50 for 2 years. And that is immediate. It's going to have some effect upon, of course, it's those that are subscribing directly, but it's also going to have an effect upon us as to pay our dues to national, and which includes the Pioneer magazine. One thing that's happened is that printing of the magazine has increased 70% over the last 3 months because of the cost of paper and printing and whatever. So it's mandatory that we had to do that. We have in this association, 4 classes by bylaws of membership. We have the new family and friends initial, which is everybody will join at $35. Then we have the annual members, which everybody after the first year will go to is $60. Then we have the life membership, which is $600. And that can be one payment of $600, or it can be 2 payments of $300 each over a period of a year. But we also have a sustaining heritage membership in our bylaws, which in the past we have used, but we haven't promoted very often. Though there are probably some of you on here that are sustaining members, where you can donate to the Sons of Utah Pioneers by a regular payment from your credit card or from your bank account directly to us. Let me see if I can find that here and share the screen. It's not there. Anyway, we can send it out to you. It's a special membership where out of the amount that is donated by your credit card or your bank account directly to National is your national dues. There is also qualify for complimentary tickets to selected national events like the symposium and our annual Christmas dinner, a few other things like that. And you receive a certificate and a wallet card identifying yourself as a sustaining heritage membership. We'll be getting that out to each of you in the next week or so. We'd like you to take a look at that. We'd also like you to offer it to your new members. It's quite workable. We've had it for about 15 years, and initially it worked well. Then we kind of forgot about it, and the sustaining membership went down to we have just maybe 10 or 15 sustaining memberships left workable at this point, but we'd like to do that.
And that also goes to the existing members too, John, doesn't it?
It does, yes. If you're existing members, you can become a sustaining member and with the same advantages. So let's see. We also have what we call do something monumental. If you've attended any of our encampments, you realize Steve Crewman, who was one of our investment counselors, who is a member and an AVP, is working with this, where he's managing retirements and life investments, and including Sons of the Utah Pioneers in donations, including in that. And we'll be also getting information out on that. Is there any questions?
Hey, John, this is Brad.
Can I ask a question?
Brad?
1 minute, Brad. Who was talking other than Brad?
Bob.
Ron Gibb.
Yes.
Go ahead, Ron.
Go ahead, Ron.
You have an associate member with ladies, and they are $25 and they get the subscription to the magazine.
That's correct. I was talking about.
Stay the same, or is that going to increase their membership?
No, at this point, it's going to stay the same.
Thank you.
Brad?
Yeah, I just have a comment. If the magazine now is $30 to subscribe, why on earth would somebody not pay another $5 and become an initial member of the SUP, and then after a year continue on if they were in a chapter with a good program? If a chapter is giving the magazine out to a speaker, why not add an extra $5 and make that speaker a member? And you're going to end up having probably at least 50% of those continue on as members of the SUP. by
Yep.
paying a full membership.
Oh, Bob, you had your thumbs up on that. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that Brad's pretty smart. He's got a good idea. Second thought I had was I'm
Could
one
you
of the.
repeat that again about me being pretty smart?
Okay.
Wait till his wife's there.
Brad, that's an excellent suggestion that to give out memberships rather than simply magazine subscriptions. A second comment is I'm one of the chosen few. I'm one of those sustaining members. And I wanted to describe how I do that. It's different than the way John Elgren has described it. The way I do that is I am required every year by the Internal Revenue Service to have a required minimum distribution from my IRA account. Probably some of you may be in the same situation. I can contribute, and I do contribute a lot of that required minimum distribution to the LDS Church for tithing and fast offerings and humanitarian fund. In addition to that, I contribute some of that money to the Sons of the Utah Pioneers. Now, according to the Internal Revenue Service rules, I can't receive benefits. I can't receive tickets. I can't receive magazine subscriptions unless I really want to go nose to nose with the IRS about the fact that I'm an officer in the Sons of Utah Pioneers. But I don't want to bother the IRS. I just simply say, okay, if I get a benefit, this is not a tax deductible donation. And I do that separately. The money that I give through the sustaining membership is tax deductible because our Sons of Utah Pioneers is a 503c corporation, exactly the same as the church. And those funds are tax deductible.
And the way Bob's doing it, it becomes out of his distribution, so it doesn't become an increase to him. So his taxes are actually reduced without having to take, what am I thinking? Itemized deductions and stuff.
Hello. Some of us, maybe you've noticed if you do your own taxes, the tax laws were simplified about a decade ago, and the standard deduction was raised to the point that it's not necessary for you to itemize your donations to the church or your other tax deductions. If you take the standard deduction, that's larger than all of your other donations, unless you have some very serious medical issues. By deducting this money from my required minimum distribution, I do get a tax deduction from the IRS. So if you have a required minimum distribution, it's an excellent opportunity to support the church and to support the Sons of Utah Pioneers and receive a tax deduction.
Thanks, Bob. And Nate is going to talk about what I think is.
Can I interrupt for a minute and make a comment about that tax deduction? I do the same thing, but not for yet Sons of Utah Pioneers. But when you withdraw from your normal IRA account, it usually ends up being taxable income to you. And if you give it strictly to the church or Sons of Utah Pioneers, it does not become taxable income. So that's one reason why I do my that way, because it doesn't end up being extra taxable liability for me. Okay, thank you.
That's right. That's a good comment. When I was in the scouting organization, each year we had fill out a form about how our troop or pack or our unit was doing. And it was a checklist for us to see how we were doing. We have a similar checklist, and Nate's going to talk about that. And I think it's a good checklist to give us an idea of just how we as a chapter are doing. Nate?
Thank you. First of all, let me just give all of you my thanks for the support that I received during this past election. I'm honored and pleased to be able to join the ranks of those who lead this organization, and look forward to working with all of you over the next several years now. They made me sign a document in blood that you would serve a full 3-year term as president-elect, president, and past president. And so I go down to the hospital once a week to get that transfusion back into my system. But I want to thank all of you for the support that I received during this past election. I've been asked to talk about the National Chapter Awards. Let me just introduce this topic by reviewing with you the areas of focus that we have in our mission statement for the Utah Pioneers, Sons of Utah Pioneers. It's come to know our fathers and turn our hearts to them, preserve the memory and heritage of early pioneers, honor present-day pioneers worldwide who exemplify the qualities and characteristics of our pioneer ancestors, and teach these same qualities to the youth who will be tomorrow's pioneers. If we take a look at the 4 areas of focus on these national awards, they align very closely with those mission statements that we have for our organization. Those 4 main areas, and I don't know if any of you have those in front of you, and I don't know if John could bring one of the Chapter Excellence Award up on a screen share, but I'll just mention that those 4 main areas of focus in that award are pioneer values recognition, strengthening membership and leadership recognition, chapter communications, and historical preservation. Now, I just want to go through this checklist very briefly. I won't touch on everything in the checklist, but perhaps give you some ideas as you prepare these and look at your own chapters as to how well you're doing in these areas, and perhaps give you some tips and hints on things that you could do that makes this checklist not quite so onerous. As you go through this and you get this page in front of you, you say, oh my goodness, how are we ever going to do that? But let me just go through a few things. Under Pioneer Values in the Chapter Excellence Award, which is the more rigorous award, you can get the chapter recognition with a little less rigor in your programs. But let's focus on Chapter Excellence Awards. Recognize 1 or more modern pioneers from the local community each year. Already has been mentioned here by Bob Lee and others, and Brad made a comment about it just a moment ago, and that is when we talk about recognizing community leaders and versus our own leaders, certainly in our chapters, we have significant community leaders. But I think we're missing a great opportunity if we only focus on chapter members receiving this kind of recognition and not recognizing leaders that are not members of our chapter in our communities. And so I think it's important for us to kind of look outside that. I know our own chapter in Ogden has traditionally, as we talk about traditions, has traditionally honored those within the chapter membership as being 21st century pioneers. And many of them, if not all of them, are certainly deserving of that, but we've already captured them. They're already members of our chapters. I do believe that if we go outside of our chapters and recognize people in our community, as was mentioned earlier as well, when a certain chapter had done this, they end up getting 3 or 4 memberships out of it. And so we ought to use this as an opportunity to increase our membership as well. The next item is to recognize tomorrow's pioneers, our youth, through one of the following activities. And note that it's only one that you have to do something with. Doing frontier life essays written by youth at local schools, or pioneer biographies written by youth at local schools. And I think we need to recognize that not everyone has a pioneer as the traditional definition of a pioneer ancestor that came across the plains between 1847 and 1869. And so we ought to focus in some instances on frontier life essays as opposed to pioneer biographies of their ancestors. And then the third thing that you can do is your Pioneer Values Scholarship awarded to graduating seniors at local high schools. Some of the chapters may not have money enough in their coffers to provide a scholarship to the high school students in their area. And so you don't have to have the money in your coffers to be able to be successful in this particular item, because you can simply sponsor an essay contest. And I think that all of our chapters ought to be able to do that, because that's a low or no cost item and still qualify under the category of pioneer values. The second area that we look at is strengthening membership and leadership excellence. And a lot of these have to do with the training. And I want to thank all of you who are representing your chapters here today for your participation in this, because it will satisfy one of the major categories here. We also will have President's Council that there will be some requirements to attend in February. There's to show a net increase in your membership, and we've strived over the years to make this net increase in membership be achievable by not counting those people who have left your chapter because of moving out of the area, or they have become inactive because of health or other major conditions that don't allow them to attend or continue in their membership. And so that particular category has been made a lot more palatable and achievable over the last few years. To hold 8 or more chapter meetings and board meetings during the year, that certainly should be achievable, especially with the technologies that we have now that we're participating in today. If you cannot gather together as a group at a particular and single location, then look at having a chapter president's meeting or board meeting or even your chapter meeting as a Zoom meeting. I think most of us through the COVID time period became a little more adept at being able to conduct these kinds of meetings. And so that shouldn't be a difficult thing for us. We do know that some of our older members who are not tech savvy and may not even have a computer would not be able to participate with us in that. But you can overcome some of that by what we'll talk about in the third item with regards to communications. For 2022, you will note in the application for the Chapter Excellence Award that the pandemic months requirements are still in effect for up to the end of this year. And so included in that are chapter members participate in 1 or more treks annually. And I would suggest to you that when we talk about a trek, and some of you, I know Martel mentioned this a little earlier, your treks don't have to be everybody get on the bus and we're going to go for a day's journey somewhere and have a box lunch and those kinds of things. We've had several treks in our local chapter in Ogden this past year where we simply have had our luncheon. We've carpooled to a location in our community. And for instance, this last one that we did, we carpooled to the local library. We got out there. We had a presentation done by a recently retired planning director for the city of Ogden. And then he took us on a tour of the Jefferson Historical District. And we just stopped in about 4 or 5 of the historical mansions in that historical district. And he gave us a brief introduction to them, who the people were that lived there, a little bit about their backgrounds. And it only took about an hour and a half. And it was just a marvelous experience for everybody to just be able to understand a little bit more about those historical mansions that we have in our community. So when we talk about treks, don't think that it has to be a big deal. Just go somewhere in your community. Go to some of the monuments in your community. We took a trek to the local cemetery, and we had previously identified a few prominent people who were buried in our cemetery, and had chapter members prepare in advance 1 or 2 paragraphs about that individual. So don't make your treks unachievable, make them very achievable. The third area in the award is communication excellence. and to publish a newsletter 4 or more times a year. However, during the pandemic time, it was required every month, and that continues up through the end of this year. And don't make your newsletters so complicated that the common person can't help you with those. All they need to be able to do is to have someone type and then put it on an electronic source and send it out to all your membership electronically. Virtually everybody has an email address. And so we have been distributing our email or our newsletters electronically over the last couple of years, and that's worked very, very well. And newsletters don't have to be monster things where you include everything that's in the kitchen sink. It can be as simple as letting people know when your next meeting is, maybe a story or two about 1 or 2 members, if there's been some things that have happened with them, whether they've received recognitions, or honoring your individuals who have gone to Chapter Eternal with a brief statement about them. And so they don't have to be complicated. They just have to be able to communicate. Also, we need to submit at least 1 article regarding our chapter to a local nearby newspaper. And we've made that easy, and that's the only way the Ogden chapter would ever qualify, is that it doesn't have to be published, but you do have to submit it. And so that one becomes very achievable. And then the last area in that communications excellent is gift subscriptions of the Pioneer magazine. And that is based on your membership. And let me just use the example. The Ogden chapter right now has about 80 members. That would require us to give 8 gift subscriptions as a chapter to other individuals. That's pretty easy to do because all you need to do is get 2 or 3 members to simply give a gift subscription to each of their children during the year. And that's a very cheap Christmas present if you want to give it to them during Christmas or whatever else. And let me just share a quick story about that. I've been giving a gift subscription to each of my 6 children each year for several years now. And I got a call from one of my daughters that said, "Dad, how do people get a gift subscription or get a subscription to that magazine?" She's the president of a large corporation that constructs and manages assisted living centers. And she says, "I put my copy of that magazine on one of the tables in our library room at the center in St. George." And she says, "I started to get call after call after call as to how they can get a copy of that magazine." And so when we give a gift subscription to one person, I sincerely believe that that can springboard several other interested parties who also would like to have a subscription to that magazine. But if nothing else, give it to your children and get 3 or 4 other people in your chapter to do the same, and you'll meet that qualification very easily. The 4th category is historical preservation excellence. And once again, this is made fairly simple if you just take the time to do it. Establish 1 approved new monument or historical marker or major reconstruction. You only have to do 1 of these during the course of the year. That one becomes a little more problematic because it's a bigger undertaking. The item number 2 under there is to clean, repair, or maintain 2 existing monuments or markers. Now, notice it says clean, repair, or improve. You don't have to do all 3 of those. You just have to do 1 of those. So take a couple of people, go down, clean up a couple of monuments. You've met the requirement. Maintain and restore 1 Pioneer era structure that is available for public view. Once again, that's a bigger project, but still many chapters do that. Organize members to accomplish a specific project in SUP library in cooperation with the library directors. At one time, we had 3 people who were interested in doing that just on their own. And so they went ahead and did that, and that helped our chapter to meet this particular requirement. And then the other one is other historical preservation projects with written permission from the National Executive Council. So those are the the requirements of that, and I think almost every chapter could meet every one of those requirements if someone would just take the opportunity to look at those at the beginning of the year and then assign somebody on your board of your chapter to kind of monitor that and to help keep you as the leadership on track in achieving each of those principles. That's all I have, John, on that. I don't know if anybody has questions or other ideas.
Thank you, Nate. I appreciate everybody that has been involved here. One thing that I want to emphasize is that we're going to try to look a little more at our mission statement and try to be more cognizant of that this next year. That's one of my goals, personal goals, and encourage our members to be more cognizant of it in their families. Does anybody else have any other comments?
Yes.
I do have one more comment. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, Bob.
The suggestion or the opportunity of placing the Pioneer magazine in rest homes is perfect. I think that rather than waiting for a good friend to do it for us, we could do that ourselves on a regular basis. I think we'd find that it might stimulate membership, but more important, it would stimulate, as was said, subscriptions to our magazine. I think that it would be an excellent investment for each of us, each chapter to consider.
Go ahead,
In addition, I thought to Bob, our chapter of Upper Snake River Valley subscribes to 4 publications to be delivered to us. And we use that publication to give to our program speakers as a gift for their coming to our meeting. And then we will invite them to join our organization through family and friends and give them a free membership for 1 year. Now, Brad talked a little bit about that. Brad, you want to elaborate more on that idea? You just mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, if we're going to give a magazine subscription for $30 to a family member, why don't we just make them a member for another $5? And then if we're going to have a speaker come to our chapter, and we're going to routinely in the past, we've given them a magazine subscription. It goes back to when you do what you've always done, you get what you always got. But for another $5, you can have a new member of your chapter. And each chapter, say they had 6 speakers a year come in that were from the community. Well, there's 6 new members times how many? 47 chapters. What does that add up to? 300, almost 300 new members that quick. So, and half of them will probably stay on. So I think we miss a valuable resource when we don't do that.
Yeah, Brad commented on that a couple of years ago, and our chapter picked up on that. And we've followed through with inviting the speakers to join our organization when we give them a free membership for 1 year.
There have been a couple of times when we've had speakers and we've asked them if they received Pioneer Magazine, and some of them had, but they weren't members. And so that's a good time to say, well, we're going to re-up your subscription to your magazine and also make you a member, so you can hitchhike off what they've already got as well and make it even more enhanced for them.
Yeah, I think one of the important keys in that is when they're done speaking and everybody's talking to them, saying thanks afterwards. You don't let them get out the door without whipping your phone out and signing them up.
Signing them up, yep.
I agree with that. I've done that in our chapter up here at the Snow Horse several times. So if there's nothing more to say, I want to thank everybody, and I'm going to fall back on an adage my mission president taught us. He says, when you get home, I want you to stand up, speak up, and shut up. So we all like a shorter meeting. So if there's nothing else, I turn the time back over to Martel to close the meeting.
Thank you very much, guys. To lead out. I'll ask Doug Ladle to give us our closing prayer.
Heaven, we're
Looks like-
thankful. I'm here. Yeah, I just had to go off mute. Our Father in heaven, we're thankful for our insights that we've gained in the instruction from the National Society, but also some great insights from local leaders. We're thankful, Father, for this organization. We recognize that we have a charge to maintain the heritage of our pioneers, and we try to do that through our local chapters and the National Society. So please prosper us in this effort, Father. We honor them and we're thankful for those who've gone before. Now bless those who are leading this organization on the national and also the local levels. We're thankful for all their efforts, and may they be also blessed with success in these ideas they've been sharing now. And we ask these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, everybody. Best of luck in everything you do.
Thank you.